All right, welcome everybody. I'm Mayor Densmore. Today is November 14th, and this is our full council meeting. If you would stand as you're able to help us get started with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. Eric, would you get us started with a roll call?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Meany.
Here.
Mr. Fisher.
Here.
Mr. Knipp.
Here.
Mr. Marks.
Here.
Ms. Snyder.
Here.
Mr. Van Harn is absent.
Very good. Motion to excuse Mr.
Motion to
Van.
excuse. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And has everyone had an opportunity to look at the agenda? I'm presuming you received my email today with my request to have that amended. We have that presentation on the rapid transit stuff with Metro. I'm suggesting that we do that basically during my mayor's report. I have a very short one. So
No.
without,
That's not.
yeah, now you're all upset. So if that is acceptable to you all, I'll just ask for the agenda to be approved. with
Motion
that
to adopt
amendment
the agenda.
as amended.
As amended.
Thank you.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Perfect. All right. And our next item on here, we have Ian Hill visiting us today here.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
Ian was born and raised in California. He joined the Navy in 2006 and served through 2010. After that, he went and got a degree in law enforcement, criminal justice. And following that, took a job at the Hamilton County Justice Center as a deputy sheriff there. Has held several law enforcement positions since that time, most recently with Hamilton County Parks as a ranger. And he married his wife, Jessica, this past year. And they're expecting the first son in the new year. So pleasure to have him here today as the newest member of our police team. So I'm going to have him step forward and take the oath of office. Do it.
Very good.
Raise your right hand. Why don't you come over here for, someone might want to get a picture and it'll look nice if you're here in front of the flag here. So repeat after me. I, Ian Hill,
I, Ian Hill,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to protect the Constitution and laws of the United States of America,
to protect the Constitution and laws of the United States of America,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Ohio,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Ohio,
the charter and ordinances of the village of Gulf Manor,
the charter and ordinances of the village of Gulf Manor,
and to fairly and faithfully
to fairly and faithfully
execute the duties of the office to which I've been appointed.
to execute the duties and
To fairly and faithfully
to fairly and faithfully
execute the duties
execute the duties
of the office
of the office
to which I've been appointed.
to which I have been appointed.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Thank you. Nice meeting you all.
Nice to meet you.
Do we have any, I see that we don't have any registered people to address the council other than, as I said, we have Masson Jeffries, and I'm understanding that Stephen Anderson will also be arriving as well, who will do who will be representing the Metro services for us this evening. If no one else is registered, then I'll ask if we can have the minutes from our previous council meeting from October 24th. Have they been reviewed, and are we ready to make a motion to have them accepted?
Motion to accept.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
All right.
Thank you. And Chief Meter, we like to have him give his report up front so we can get out of there as soon as.
I appreciate you doing stuff like that. Thank you. Well, as most of you seen, the run totals are in about what we expected, roughly 60 a day is what we expected to do when we came to work with you guys. That's about where we are. So This weekend we seem to be down here quite a bit. It's kind of the way it works. So
You said 60, how many?
about 60 a month.
60 a month, right, okay.
If I said day, I would.
Right.
60 a day.
Yeah.
So everything seems to be doing well. We're on target for our budget marks at the district this year.
Okay.
We're still in the process of trying to secure a utility vehicle. There was one that we discussed with Gulf Manor at one point, of an old one that they were getting ready to put out the bid, but we're opting to go with the new one. But as most of you probably know, trying to buy, especially a pickup truck this time, is really difficult. So we're going to have to look at one tomorrow. We'll see. But yeah, it's just little things that we're trying to keep up on. Our next board meeting will be December 20th. That's the third Tuesday. It'll be at 4:30. So as always, I extend you, your council, your residents, opportunity to come to the meetings are at 4:30 at our firehouse in the front training room. So you're more than welcome to attend. Other than that, I want to briefly, because I'm sure somebody's going to give you on it. We had a great time coming out in the community on Halloween. I don't know in the past what Gulf Manor had done. In Silverton and Deer Park, those two communities had always done what we were doing that night, going out, passing out candy, seeing the kids, slowing down traffic, which I'm sure the police department likes having that extra little bit of help. But unfortunately, when I was on one of your council member streets, I clipped a car. So it wasn't 10 minutes after I saw you and you got to see your family, and right across from Sharon's house. So these things happen, even when you're the boss, sometimes you mess up a little bit. So our insurance company's been in contact with everybody. So I'm just telling myself a little bit. Even with that, we had a fun night.
Yeah.
And we'll continue to do that in the future. So if there are any other events that come up this holiday season, if you have something special you need, just give us a shout and we'll try to make arrangements to have something there, have a presence there. I know things kind of tend to die down once the winter sets in. Then you ramp back up during the spring and summer with festivals and whatnot. So, but we're here to help out. And if you have any additional questions, I'm happy to take them before I head out here.
Just thank you very much for your service on Halloween, as well as our police department. Ran into both departments while we were trick-or-treating, and the kids loved it. And I knew all the other kids that we were encountering that evening loved it too. So thank you both for doing that. It's a great community activity for our kids to get a chance to see you guys in action and to get to meet you personally. So
we have a great time with it. So we've been doing it, like I said, for years and years. And even once I started on the fire department, I wanted to get out there with the firefighters and keep doing this. So kind of glad to welcome you guys and hold that tradition. So next year, I promise, though, I will not
clip any cars.
And if I could, one thing, Sharon called me before the meeting. One of the reasons that I know you, as a council, wanted to see where we were making our runs, it's not so much, we're not trying to call anybody out on anything. We don't provide any kind of medical information or personal information. But there is the addresses where we tend to go. And Sharon caught an address that caught her eye where there's been an uptick in some calls for service. So since you brought that to my attention, we're going to go look at the issue and see if there's something that we can help with. Maybe there's an outside agency that might be of service to that particular resident. So when you guys get these, since you're much more familiar with the community and who people may be, please, by all means, let us know, and we'll work to make sure people are getting the care and service that they need. So if you see something like that, don't hesitate to reach out, and we'll look into it and see how we can help.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your service. I think I speak on behalf of the whole council in saying that we've just been very pleased with Deer Park Silverton.
I'm glad to hear that, and we plan on keeping up the same relationship going forward. So we're happy to. So.
If I could ask for the minutes, just when is the meeting?
It is going to be, let me double check. It's the third Tuesday of December, so that should be the 20th.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah, so that'll be December 20th. It's at 4:30 p.m. And those always take place in the training room up at Station 89 up on Blue Ash Road where it intersects with Plainfield. And again, your residents, your council members, staff, always welcome to attend. So
All
I'd
right.
like the participation.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Thanks, Chief. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you. With that, I'll show myself out.
Guys,
Appreciate you guys, thank you.
be careful.
Don't hit my car on the way out.
Wow. Wow.
I've got the personal course. I probably can't take any damage, so.
Take care. Wow,
Jeez.
wow.
Might be
Shot
that's
across
good.
the
We just
bow.
got married to these guys.
I know, sorry, can't help it.
Kicking lights down.
It's a minivan.
It was well.
It is a mini.
It was well planned.
All right, I already mentioned my gratitude to both the police and the fire department for their service on Halloween. Veterans Day last Friday. I hope everyone had the opportunity to honor and to provide any service to those who've been of service to our country. And with Election Day last week, wanted to thank specifically Ashley and Sharon and anyone else that was out working the polls, helping make sure that everyone that came out to vote was able to get in and vote the right way, of course. So thank the community for supporting our tax levy. If you hadn't heard that had passed, we're grateful to the community for that. I had the honor of being able to marry 3 couples since last time that we met. I want to congratulate Monica and Roosevelt Hayward, Jakara and Mohammed Bello, and Charlene and Burton Irankanda for on their wedding vows that they took this past 3 or 4 weeks. I want to congratulate David Fisher and his wife on the birth of their son. Congratulations. And let's see, there's a We Thrive annual recognition event that we need to, if you're interested in going to, if you've been associated with the We Thrive organization and you did not get an invite, let me know. I can forward one along to you if you're interested in going. It is December 6th at the, I don't have the information from me. I believe it's the Senior Center in, I want to say it's over there by Princeton High School. I can get you more details on it, but it's a fun event, and it's good to meet other people, hear what they're doing with their committee and their community organizations as well, to get good ideas from. So I do plan on attending that. If anyone would like to join me, I'd be excited about that. Week before last, I attended the SORTA luncheon. I got to attend with our chief fiscal officer here. Got to re-meet Senator Sherrod Brown there. So that's always fun to do. And let's see. One of the things that they talked about quite a bit there was the Metro rapid transit plans that we had discussed in council at our previous meeting about having some folks come out and present on that and let us know what's going on with it and everything. And with that, we have Steve Anderson and Madison Jeffries, who I would invite to come to these seats here. Madison, has the clicker here, and I think we can get the slides set up for you. Thank you for coming out to
Thanks for coming.
give us an opportunity to ask questions and find out what's all going on with this.
Great, thank you all for coming out today. I'm going to start by talking about just what we've been doing as Metro over the past 2 years with our Reinventing Metro plan, and then I'll hand it over to Steve and he'll talk more about BRT. All right, so with Reinventing Metro, we have some main objectives that we're trying to accomplish with our plan. Just really high-level stuff, expanding regional connectivity, driving economic development, improving mobility for everyone, attracting new businesses, accessing more and higher paying jobs, and then improving local and regional quality of life. So in our first year of Reinventing Metro, one of the big things that we did was introduce 24-hour service to the region. So we have 24-hour service on 7 of our routes. And then along Along with that, we expanded the frequency and span on a lot of our other routes. So they'll be running longer hours and with higher frequency, which means better access for everyone. And then now we're in our second year. So far this year, our ridership has continued to grow since the pandemic. We're at about 80 to 85% of pre-pandemic ridership, which is pretty good looking at the nation as a whole. We had some free weekend rides this past summer. And then right now we're working on putting out new shelters and new benches across the county. And then looking at our service changes that are coming early December, we have 2 new routes as well as 5 others that are having major changes. So our new routes are Route 5 and Route 67. The ones that will be mainly impacting this area will be 43. It'll have some routing changes and some consolidation of some of the branches, but it will still continue to run 24 hours. But the 43, it'll have new connections to the 67 and to the Route 5, as well as the 78 over at the Evendale Walmart. And just to reiterate our objectives for reinventing Metro, with these service changes, there would be 40,000 more jobs accessible by Metro, 20,000 more higher paying jobs, and 45,000 additional transit dependent persons will now have access to Metro with these changes. And now I'll hand it over to Steve to talk about BRT.
Thank you, Madison. Thank you, Mayor Densmore, for the invite and the village council. Steve Anderson here. I've been in Metro for almost 2 years. It'll be 2 years in February, and we've taken no days off. And don't thank us because you guys voted for the levy. Back in 2020, you guys supported issue 7, or you didn't, or you did.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to make good on the promise to our community in the face, in the environment, labor fluctuations, all the things that are the new normal for us. So what is bus rapid transit? I guess the too long didn't read version would be a bus that acts more like a train. Everyone would like a train, right? We would all like light rail or heavy rail, like a Chicago or an LA or even Cleveland. The reality is not only is it expensive, you're talking about a major land grab where you're reconstructing, whole communities to accommodate that. And for what ridership, really? See, what we looked at really is bus rapid transit as a more economical way to do more with less upfront capital and operating costs. The good thing about it is you can combine the speed and efficiency of rail transit with the flexibility of traditional bus service. So what does that mean? It means a faster travel experience. So imagine if Reading Road or Montgomery Road were selected, or both were selected. You all are strategically located kind of in between the two of those. So you'd be talking about, a bus that looks like a train. It'd be wrapped different. Some companies even hide the wheels to make it kind of look even more like a train. So that they have these in Cleveland and Indianapolis. We'll show some pictures of those later. But it's frequent service. There's wider station spacing, so it's not just a stick in the ground or on the curb. These are actual stations. So whether the bus is meeting these stations in the middle of Reading Road or Montgomery Road or on the side, the station itself has amenities. It's more places to sit. It's a structure that comes out. It provides canopy. It comes with wayfinding signs. Some have ticket machines and kiosks, things that will talk to you. You can pay your fare at the station. Also, in order to make that a better travel experience, you'll have BRTs that can make the light change. So for example, a BRT bus is approaching a light. There's a machine in the signal and a machine on the bus that can trigger a green or hold an existing green for that bus to meander through while the other folks that are in the travel lane are sitting there looking at you. So we've seen these. We've gone around the country in the last year or so. It's really called a dedicated bus lane. And that's where the rubber really meets the road, pun intended, where the road would actually be dedicated for the bus. So no regular one vehicle car would be allowed in those lanes. It would be solely for buses. To justify that type of stratification, you would definitely need a lot of frequency. So buses coming, every 5, 6, 7 minutes. Combined with that speed is also a convenient, more reliable ride. Again, I mentioned the enhanced bus stations, free Wi-Fi. All Metro buses already have free Wi-Fi. You get work done on your travel. They're all going to be ADA accessible. We're a federal grant recipient. We have to make everything we touch ADA accessible. But I can't understate the benefits of having that same level boarding. See, typically when a train, you're basically just sliding right on. Or the bus, there may be a step or an indentation. So in addition to the same level boarding, that quickens up the boarding process. Much like a train, they're in it, they stop, they go. There's not much of a gap for wheelchairs or folks with mobility devices. In addition, you have the real-time information and bike accommodations. That we've seen some buses that have the whole rear of the bus. And these would be longer buses too, not a 40-footer, would be one of the articulated buses. They have whole sections of bike parking. So the potential benefits are many. I won't cover all of these. One of the main ones is folks that wouldn't normally be caught dead on a local bus service are going to be a little more likely to try and use BRT simply because of the speed. Our goal is to make bus transit somewhat competitive with car transit. Car in most places, certainly as you get out here more towards out in the burbs, it's less dense. The car is going to be the quickest. However, not everybody can afford a car. So we like to posit ourselves as you may not need us, but the folks that you rely on may need us. So as we expand our local service out towards the outer reaches of Hamilton County, a BRT is a very nice complement to that local bus network. You're talking about reduced travel times. We all know the vehicle emissions and the environmental benefits of not everybody driving one car to work, 50 cars on the road, all could fit in one bus. You're also reducing traffic congestion. So the way we try to sell it in certain areas is, hey, you might not use it, but that's another person getting out of your car lane to help your trip hopefully get to where you need to go a little faster. Again, I mentioned the speed and the efficiency. It can encourage transit-oriented development. We've seen this in Indianapolis and Cleveland. These are not coastal elite cities. These are just Midwest cities like we are. They've seen condos development happen at these stations because they're not every block. They're like a quarter of a mile to a half a mile. It's even in some cases a mile apart. So it really does feel like you're on a real corridor. And I don't want to just talk at y'all. I don't know how formal this body is. Should I just keep going or pause?
Sure. Yeah.
All right, sure. Thanks. So how will BRT impact our communities? I had mentioned Cleveland earlier. On the right, you'll see Euclid Avenue. This is in Cleveland in the late 90s. By the late 2000s, they built their Healthline BRT connecting Case Western, some of their hospitals along that corridor that was not doing that well. You can kind of see the before and after is leading to a more sense of place, a more walkable place, a place that feels like a place. So in addition to placemaking, BRT has also the power to improve access to jobs. I think everyone in the room would know that access to jobs is a great thing. But in addition, sidewalks and lighting. If a bus lane is going to come into Reading or Glenway, we basically have to redo the whole road, and that would come with bike lanes, potentially, definitely some sidewalks, benches, shelters, lighting, things that just improve the whole corridor for all users. Here in Eugene, Oregon, the team went out there a couple weeks ago. You can see before, and Eugene's a small college town. It has an urban growth boundary. It's pretty compact, but you can see the difference there. Granted, they had a very wide right-of-way, a lot of space to work with. Cincinnati, our roads are a little older. We have a tighter right-of-way, talking 70 feet in some instances. So we've got our work cut out for us in terms of where and how to best use BRT. This is the map. You see Golf Manor is between the green and the blue lines. Green being our proposed Reading Road corridor, as well as the blue being Montgomery Road. All four of them have their benefits. You see Hamilton and then Glenway in the orange. All of them have their benefits. All of them have their cons and their pros. Glenway corridor, it's approximately 9 miles. It's the shortest of the corridors we're looking at. However, the local route that's underlying the orange line you see does have the highest ridership, Route 33. It's averaging 30 people an hour. So we would have to take that into consideration. Whereas Hamilton corridor, you're connecting uptown, downtown, north side, as well as areas north of there. So there's a lot of benefit to connecting those nodes. It's about 12-mile corridor. Reading Road has the second highest amount of ridership, as well as some solid right-of-way. North of uptown, it's also about 12 miles. Again, you're connecting uptown, the college area, downtown, over the Rhine, with everything north of there as well. And then Montgomery Road is the longest, 13 miles. You know, you have a slew of important places to get to: Kenwood Mall, Xavier, the Walnut Hills area, as well as downtown. And that's well served by local routes as well. So what we're doing now is we're doing the circuit. You know, we have 52 neighborhoods in Cincinnati alone, as well as our outstanding cadre of municipalities. So we're basically going and saying, you know, what say you? Let's get the dialogue going. We would ask you guys to maybe fill out a survey on our website and get you more information on that. Basically, we're just collecting feedback from the communities. We're going through the data right now to see what makes sense. We have a consultant, WSP, formerly Parsons Brinckerhoff. They're helping us kind of pull the data together. With the process of going from 4 corridors to the next round would be, okay, these are the 2 we think that are best suited. This doesn't necessarily mean that the 2 that aren't selected in round 1 would not go at a later date, but this is our best start at these 2 corridors, whichever 2 they may be. So Gulf Manor, if it's Reading or Montgomery or both, you have a 50-50 chance. 2 out of the 4 will move forward. Again, BRT, we're here to attract riders, do it in an efficient, economical way, as well as improve equity and support, you know, all our mission statements, connecting folks to jobs, education, and opportunities. So step 2, once we identify those 2 corridors, we'll develop, we'll have to put out another RFP for a consultant to help us design those 2 corridors. That's 2 years easily by itself. Then once those 2 corridors are designed, then another 2 to 3 years for construction. Best case, we would cut the ribbon on this sometime in 2027. These are all pictures of existing BRT systems, just to show that it's not your grandfather's bus service. These things are attractive. They promote investment. There's a sense of permanence with that type of investment. And we think it's a huge game changer, not only for the city, not only for Gulf Manor, not only for the county, but the region. Again, our next steps for evaluating proposed corridors is a timeline that is very gentle. It's a lot more robust than that. And your voice matters. Again, input is a critical part of this corridor evaluation process. You know, we'll look at all things. We'll look at data. We'll look at cost. We'll look at constructability. We certainly don't want to spend, you know, $100 million just to buy an intersection on one corridor. We've got to kind of weigh all these opposing concerns. The Metro BRTstudy.com, it's a very nice website, and we are basically doing the rounds right now, and we will be until the new year. Around New Year, we think we'll know what 2 corridors move forward. And these are other cities that also have BRT. We've been to probably a third of them. Pittsburgh has them. They just came back from Albuquerque. So we're really excited about the project, and we'll open it up for questions, and thank you. That's great.
Thank you, guys. What goes into determining which 2, right? Is it just us raising our hand? Or
If you want it, we'll make that well known. So we are going to apply for federal grants. You know, they'll front 80%, or they'll pay for 80% of construction. We'll have to chip in another 20%. So what the feds are looking for, of course, is bang for their buck. All right, is anyone going to ride it?
Right.
They can have all the bells and whistles, Wi-Fi, 5G,
Right.
Smart boards, but if you're not in areas where folks aren't riding, aren't using it, then that reflects poorly on everybody involved. So the corridors, Reading, Glenway, you know, they have highest ridership. However, you could also make the case that right-of-way in Montgomery and Reading are easier to construct. So it's the secret sauce is ridership, cost, constructability, and then again, community support. You know, if we choose Montgomery and then Norwood, Silverton, Kenny, all these people say, nope, not taking a lane. Nope, we don't want it. We don't want it. Well, we can just run local service there. You know, dedicated is that next step up, that everyone kind of has skin in the game and may feel a change in their travel once you start talking about dedicated lanes.
This doesn't apply directly to Reading or Montgomery, but the comment about working on getting more bus shelters in place. And I had spoke to someone at SORTA at one of the events that I was at, and they said, talk to us about it. We have all of our high school students ride the Metro buses to school, all right? And we don't have any shelters. So when I'm out running in the morning and it's raining, all these high school kids are just standing out in the rain waiting for the buses to come. So I'm looking forward to working with you guys to get some bus shelters here at least where the high school bus stops are around our community. But was wondering if you have a good contact, or if you can put in a word that
I'm
we
the
are-
project manager.
Awesome. All right.
And I assume you mean Los Angeles?
Yes,
Or Reading?
correct.
But you guys don't actually touch Reading?
We have,
No.
no, we don't actually touch Reading, but yeah, Los Angeles, sorry. Then also there's a corner on Weehee where there's a lot of kids that stand as well.
Right out here.
Yeah,
And
just
what
down the
high-
street from
what
me.
high- all over, they go to
Yeah,
CPS?
yeah, all over.
Okay, so I have to say something now. This is all great. It's expensive.
Yes.
What are you doing for our teenagers to get them to school? I was at the city council meeting and school board meeting. You stopped the service, Metro stopped the service for school kids directly, and they're now making them get on the regular Metro. Kids aren't going to school, and that's one of the reasons why. So I know city council and school board are gonna make it a top priority, and they're gonna be working with SORTA. This was all discussed at the meeting last week.
Correct. You're talking about
Yes,
the task force?
so we have to put our students as number one priority. This isn't a priority until the kids are taken care of, and that's my
I hear
2
you.
cents worth.
Only thing I could say to that is running school bus service with a federally funded city bus is a violation of the charter agreement. So we're not actually allowed to actually allowed to operate school bus service. We had been doing it for 20 years and kind of skirting the line of propriety as far as the feds are concerned. They've had a number of findings about using a bus that you don't tell anybody else about, but you tell the school kids, it's gonna pick you up, and you're not really open to the public. That's not really legal, I guess. So with the whole CPS thing, we did a lot of hand wringing about this, because we realized we dropped the ball with the notification, only giving folks 2 or 3 weeks to make alternative arrangements. My kids are CPS kids.
Yeah, there's
So-
not enough yellow bus service that's a huge need. Because right now, just the yellow bus service is taking kids K through 8. They can't take the others because there's not enough. And now, with Metro stopping the school service, it kind of hit them all hard.
The labor situation, like we had to do something. We were leaving kids. So when we're running the extra routes, we were leaving kids. The only thing I'll say is the local service has worked by and large for a lot of people, because if that one bus that comes and gets your kid in Santee and takes them to Walnut, previously if that bus didn't show up because of COVID, that kid was stranded. At least
Yeah,
now
it's
with a 43 or a 41, there's local service. Now granted, we still are missing trips. So we're putting our heads together every day, trying to work with our CPS partners.
Okay.
But we really need bus drivers back. We need labor. We're
I know
short
you
like
don't, you're
100.
short on
We're
bus
short
drivers
100 bus
too.
drivers, and
And
the
buses.
yellow buses are too.
Mhm.
I actually have too many buses.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've got buses
Oh,
just
they
sitting there,
said you
just no
didn't
drivers.
have
So
enough.
if y'all know anybody, send them on down to Queensgate. But no, we appreciate that, and it was tough. I would never do that again, where you change people's lives in 3 weeks. But CPS, we've rebounded our partnership a little bit, so I will we'll continue working on that.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Sharon is our vice mayor, Ms. Cheney, and she's also quite involved with PRM, our local elementary school here. So she's very connected. So if you have any kind of messaging that you want to get out to them, she'd be the person to contact. Because I know a lot of the issue here is just that, you have people that are on the receiving end that aren't aware of why things are happening, right? And the better communication, the happier everyone's going to be, even if something sucks sometimes. So
No, I appreciate it.
It's a problem.
let's see. There was a lot more questions at our previous council meeting, but I think that goes to show how well you covered everything. So
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Arts, thank you guys.
And let's see. Yeah, awesome. There.
I know this works because I used the silver line in Boston
Oh,
frequently.
wow, the
Oh,
BRT.
good.
Awesome. That's pretty new, isn't it?
Silver line's been there a little while, but you go to a main train station, you get on a silver line bus, and then you go right to where you want to go.
That's what we're shooting.
And it's direct, especially for airport stuff.
You don't get one.
That's all right.
You need more?
I need one.
No one ever wants to.
If I could ask, I'm not a council, but I am a resident. Is there any exploration of parking lots in strategic locations?
Yes, we got approached by Roselawn, that Summit, is it Section in Reading, there's a lot there that they wanted to,
Section of Reddit.
Laz parking or whatever, but the money that they were talking about, it made sense for us at the time. But the downtown business that we used to, the folks hopping on and going downtown or working 9 to 5, we just don't have that business profile anymore. Folks do it, but they do it, 2 or 3 days out of the week.
Yeah.
Just because folks are working from home, my wife's completely remote, so parking rides are, now it's just,
Interesting.
it's really overnight services up, Saturday service, like all these non-traditional times we're trying to figure out how we message. I mean, come get wasted and ride Metro. Don't get behind. We're really trying to throw things and see, not wasted, but enjoy yourself on a cold winter night.
Appropriately medicated.
Yes.
Well, yeah, and I had noticed over the summer the free ride weekends, and then I don't know if you did it with this Veterans Day, but I noticed last Veterans Day, free rides for vets on
Yep,
Veterans Day, and those kind of initiatives I think are great. But again, it's getting the word out so people even know that it's happening and everything. So
What's the
we're happy
best
to help
way
you with that.
to come communicate and conversate?
I'd be happy to talk to you about that. I've got connections with nonprofits that are just about dispersing information to folks about what kind of goodies are available and that kind of stuff, and can certainly help rebroadcast messaging and everything. So,
Well, thank you so much.
yeah, thank you again very much.
Thank you.
I didn't know that.
We at the
We didn't talk about that.
Village Administrator's Report, Mr. Hurst.
You did.
Yeah, so we've had a lot happen in the last 3 weeks since we last met. Mr. Donlin, our village engineer, John Godey, and I met with Greater Cincinnati Waterworks. I think we had reported that we were going to have a discussion with them about doing tandem projects. And we actually got the result that we wanted, which was surprising. They agreed with us that there was probably a more efficient way to do the water projects versus the road projects, which would not encumber us to go into excessive expense to do the roads. So they have agreed to bundle the Elbrook project, Canterbury and Englewood all in one bid, which is out now, with the expectation that they will do the water portion of it sometime in the first 6 months of next year.
Nice.
So coming to those streets, there will be new water lines. Weehee was already done 3 or 4 years ago, so there's no water line to be done there. But this model will also work with Hamel, so when it comes time, once the engineering is done there, it'll be a separate project. The nice thing about this now is that the WEHE bid is out there. It went out last Friday. It'll be out this Friday. And then we'll actually open the bids on the 30th of November. That'll be here at 11 a.m. Hopefully we will be out with the Elbrook bid sometime within the next 2 weeks, in addition to Canterbury Englewood. So we're finally starting to see some movement again on the road projects. And what was really encouraging was that the lack of materials does not seem to be the problem that it was 6 months ago. So they understood that it's a burden on us to have to take care of all the accounting piece of this. When they reimburse us up front, we have to do the truing up of the accounts at the end of the project. So fortunately, we got a good result out of those. So real happy about that. One of the things that we want to do with WEHE is, once we have selected a bid, is sometime within 30 days after that happens, we're going to pull together some type of a public meeting and invite the residents and the businesses to come here and have an opportunity to talk with the engineer and to see what the scope of the project is. One of the reasons for that is a lot of the paving that'll be done on WEHE will be done at night, simply because of all the businesses that would be impacted during the day with road closures. So we want to be conscious of the interruption that we're going to create for our residents, but we'll have a vendor who does this as part of their job. So we should be in a good place there. Property maintenance on Silver, we continue to emphasize the enforcement of property maintenance in the cul-de-sac. There's now a big, beautiful fence there along with roadblocks. We have curtailed a lot of the dumping. However, it continues. So Sergeant Reed, working with Chief Campbell and with Mr. Pridnoff, came up with a sourcing of an Arlo portable camera, if you're familiar with those. I don't think it's come in yet. We were expecting it on Friday. It should be here any day. Once that's up, it will be able to communicate directly to a phone in the police department when anything's going on down there. So that, coupled with the new portable license plate reader, will be helpful in helping us take care of the dumping that's going on down there. Leaf collection, we spoke about briefly in the executive committee meeting. Mother Nature had other plans over the last several days, a snowstorm and lots of rain. They are behind, however, so we're going to suspend the sign project or the sign program for a couple of days until they get caught up. Mr. Putoff was able to make arrangements with Amberley for us to dump our leaves in their dump free of charge for a week, which is huge. That we're able to do that, because that's going to save a lot of travel time for our truck and also keep our guys out on the road. What I would like to do for next year, and we'll talk with the executive committee about this in more detail, but we probably need to take a look at being able to have a second unit out on the road for when one leaf unit gets full. We have a second one that we can back in place and continuing to clean. That's going to be a bit more of a challenge. But I think we're organized in terms of the scheduling now. Now it's just a matter of trying to keep up and the weather cooperating. Likely they will be working Saturday this week. The other feedback that we've gotten is that people seem to be using Leaf Tracker on the website to see when the leaves are being picked up. And I understand that the signs are a hit. So people seem to appreciate having those out there. So that's a good thing. That was a pretty hefty investment for us, but fortunately we'll be able to use them season to season.
Just a quick question. It seems like some people are using the Rumpke service on Mondays for bags.
I don't have numbers from them yet,
But they are
but that
picking up.
we would encourage that. In fact, if you have an interest in doing the most green thing with your leaves, it would be bagging them in paper bags and having Rumpke pick them up on Mondays, because those go directly to recycling. You can still toss your leaves in with your regular garbage on Tuesday, but they go to the regular dump when you do that. And then, of course, we're picking up that which is still out there. Our eye on the ball is that the leaves need to be done, I want to say it's December 16th. So if there's stuff laying on the roads after December 16th, residents are still responsible for cleaning those up. So I'm just, keep your fingers crossed that Mother Nature holds out here a couple more weeks.
And every street gets visited twice, is that correct, or only bigger streets?
They're scheduled twice, they likely
Okay.
will get it more than twice.
Okay.
So the problem this year, which is unusual from previous years, is all the leaves came down at once. So in the streets, some of the streets like Ardmore that have so many trees and Canterbury really have clogged up the drain pipe, so to speak, with the leaves. So they are working hard. I heard Mr. Marks mention, and I think he was keeping an eye on them on Bremont this past week. So
Fun discussion.
So, and I'm not sure, but my neighbor has a completely clean yard today. I don't know how she did that, but so I think all her leaves are in my yard now.
So she did that.
That's how she did that. Also very happy to report that our closure on the Bean property takes place on Friday. So we will own a second piece of property.
Trying to find wood and not.
So we say that with confidence until there's an actual signature on a piece of paper.
He has been
But
cooperative.
we have a couple of plans in place to keep this from getting derailed at this point. Mr. Bean has been very good in terms of as good as he can be about taking care of getting things cleaned out. And we're happy to be able to get a hold of that building and secure it. So if you've noticed, there has been some cleanup that's taken place around the bakery building, and we'll be posting no trespassing and condemnation signs there within the next couple of weeks, just so people know that that's not a place to park their stuff. So other thing that I would mention in my report this evening is I know that several of you have mentioned to me that there's a concern about a business on Bremont Avenue with rental cars and cars being parked on the street. Mr. Donnellan and the administration have addressed that with the owner of the business, in addition to addressing it to the person who owns the dry cleaning building here. So we're working towards getting compliance with both of those businesses. We certainly are happy to see additional business in the village, but they have to do what our code says they need to do. Same thing is true for the new T-Mart. We've addressed their signage, and I want to say they've got probably another week on that. They had 30
Maybe
days.
2 at the most on their temporary sign.
So you should be seeing some improvement there fairly quickly. So lots of stuff going on.
Looks permanent, is that not permanent?
That's
It's like it's just like a
it's a
vinyl wrap.
bag.
They
Oh,
wrapped
is
it
it?
on UDF sign.
Oh, okay. Because it was totally empty before, but it looks,
Yeah.
I didn't know if that was like a plastic insert.
Yeah, it looks better than it did, but I guess not permanent.
Totally
I think their new sign's going to look just like that, except it'll be
plastic instead of,
attached rather than flopping in the wind.
it's terrible.
So those are the highlights, lots of stuff going on. Mr. Pridnoff's going to give you an update on the appropriations process. We've been slowly working through council members, starting with finance, to make sure that you're aware, because we're looking at passing appropriations on the 28th. In addition to that, we'll also have a report on the ARPA funding for the Finance Committee that night. So
Just
Am I
real
ready?
quick, since you're talking about that corner, I don't know if any of you seen the actual architectural plans for Scott Concrete.
Mm-mm.
So that, from where you see their building is going up, there's a lot of stuff happening. That's gonna be green space all the way from the building to Lozana.
Nice.
He's getting rid of all that paved area.
Awesome.
And you gotta know if he's doing it, it's not.
Yeah,
It'd
it's
be
gonna
like
look
the
good.
salt in it.
So, and I apologize, I forgot to mention that Amberley Village is doing the cul-de-sac on Weehee Road. And they're doing that as a part of our project. So we're working on an interjurisdictional governmental agreement. Say that 12 times fast. For Amberley to reimburse Gulf Manor for the work, because they're actually going to do it in our contract. So it'll all be seamless, but Amberley's going to pay for it. So their engineer's been working with our engineer. All of the water problems that we have with drainage at that end of the street are all going to be corrected. And Mr. Scott gets the benefit of that because he'll be getting new driveways because of that. So, and people on Weehee, I know, I really feel bad because I know residents have been down at the lower end without curbs and decent concrete for a long, long time. That is all going to get replaced. And that will be part of the project. So those residents will not have to pay to have their sidewalks redone.
Nice.
So which is a nice.
What's the time range for that?
They should start in January.
Okay. Yeah.
And they're expecting, so Weehee will be about 6 to 7 months long, but it's all road work.
Yeah.
Everybody else, the worst is going to be on Canterbury because they're taking our sidewalk out to replace the water pipe on the north side of the street.
Yeah.
But everything else should be manageable, hopefully through the winter. I hate winter road projects, but there's just no other way of really getting that done.
Any other questions for?
I just want to excuse myself, I have to run.
Okay.
Sure.
Good luck tomorrow.
Thanks.
Any other questions for Mr. Hirth? All right, our fiscal officer report.
Busy times.
Yes, good stuff.
Okay, so there's a piece of legislation tonight, which Mr. Donald will be speaking about for reappropriations. Essentially, this is in order to appropriate money which we received for the Bean property, as well as money that we have received from the sale of the mower and the pickup, as well as just a few other odds and ends in our budget. It just, again, it's end of the year accounting. There is, as Mr. Hirth had mentioned, forthcoming to anyone who I've not spoken to yet. I only spoke to a few people this past week, Ms. Cheney and Ms. Snyder and Mr. Knipp. But I will be making time with council members and, of course, Mr. Mayor to go through appropriations. It doesn't say personal anymore.
All right.
It says salaries now, so you know what it is. And we'll be going through just kind of line item by line item. Be prepared. It does take a lot longer than I thought, well, we could probably go through it in 10 minutes, but I think I've sat with everyone about an average an hour and a half, 2 hours. So just be prepared.
It's detailed.
But if you want the 20-minute version, I'll give it to you in 10.
I'll take the Cliff Note version.
Sounds good. I could probably make that work. But again, I mean, to me, it's, as a former councilman, I felt that there was a certain level of detail that I was missing. And now that's what I do, is look at spreadsheets and numbers and make sure that it all makes sense. So I feel a certain level of obligation that I want to give that to anyone who wants it. But if you don't want it, that's cool. I get that too.
Can I sell for you for just a second?
Sure.
So one of the things that I'm very confident we have is a handle on our finances. But the way the budget was structured, it was kind of all over the place. It was a mishmash of years and years and years of doing many, many different things. What Mr. Prednoff has done is to go through and to talk specifically with UAN and some other folks in other jurisdictions to start paring this down to more digestible information. So some of our line items make more sense where they are. So that this is a regrooming of our budget is probably the best way to describe it. I think it will help to simplify it. Hopefully when we have to sit down with Chief Campbell and explain the budget to him, he's not going to glaze over anymore because things are in a better shape in terms of understanding where stuff is. And hopefully that'll be the case for you too.
Appreciate that.
I've heard nothing except praise for our fiscal officer's work. So thank you for your service, sir.
Appreciate it. I appreciate that very much. And as Mr. Earth had mentioned, also working on just clarifying call it the history of our ARPA funding, and making sure that that is, again, something digestible. I put something together. There's been a lot of back and forth between me and Mr. Earth, which I think is very helpful in making sure that it is a document that we can present and that will be clear and understandable for everyone. So I appreciate your help with that.
Great.
End of report.
All right, perfect.
If you haven't sat with him yet, do it. It's a lot of detail, and I think what you probably realize is everybody has certain things they didn't understand before, and it really.
It helps me, honestly, it helped me. I thought I had it all clear and it was like, yeah, it's perfect. And
Yeah, there was one or two things you're like, oh yeah, I should relabel that. And,
Right.
And it's a process, but it really helped me to understand some things that were foggy for me before, and I'm pretty good with Excel. So it was highly recommended, set some time aside.
Yeah.
Very good job,
Great.
very good job.
We need a motion to accept your report? Are we good?
There's no financial report.
No financial
Yes,
report? Okay,
The financial report comes from the finance committee next meeting.
very good. Chief Campbell.
Hello. I have a couple things here. I have the Mayor's Court report for the month of October. Total to the city is $2,638. Total to the state, $659. Total to other was 18 for a total of $3,315 as the end of the Mayor's Court report
Give a
for the month
motion,
of October.
motion to accept the,
Motion to accept.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
And I also just wanted to welcome Officer Hill to our ranks.
Yeah,
We're really excited to have him. He's gonna fit into the community very well. And then I just want to address something. I had a conversation with Mr. Hurth and Mr. Donilon about the school detail at the Hebrew Day School. Apparently there was a thought that we were no longer doing that detail. We're sharing with Amberley. We'll have an officer there tomorrow. We'll have an officer there Thursday. I don't know where that started, but we are doing that detail with the school. We're engaged with them. Amberley has software that makes it easier to schedule. So that might be something that somebody heard. I just want to make sure that this body was aware of that.
So I've seen your cards, I've seen our cards there.
Mhm.
And that is all I have unless there's any questions.
Chief, may I ask a quick question? So Officer Cameraman is new. He's been here about a month now, I believe. So that's Mr. Hill and Mr. Cameraman, Mr. Ammerman, both in our police department. How are we doing with staffing at this point?
That's, we're fully staffed with those two additions.
Excellent job.
Okay.
Tough job to do.
It's not easy.
Yeah.
It's not
It's a good
easy.
job you got to do.
Yeah, thank you.
I understand Officer Ammerman and Officer Mullen are good friends. I mean, they're working well together at night.
Yeah, they're fitting in very well.
Oh, that's the thing.
So how many new officers over the past 12 months, 18 months?
Those two.
There was one.
Reynolds was the hire previously, and then Russ before him.
Okay. I thought there was more newer guys.
We have one newer guy. That's a newer guy somewhere else now.
On purpose?
It was that officer's decision.
Any other questions for the chief? I will ask Mr. Donilon for his report.
Thank you. Just kind of piggybacking on what the chief reported. If you look at the Mayor's Court report, Mayor's Court is not for purposes of generating revenues, but it reflects enforcement has increased substantially, with 30 to 40% higher in the number of fines that have been collected. That doesn't mean we have worse offenses. It just means we're having more people come through or citations being issued and paid out. So that's reflective of getting up to full staffing.
That's a
That increase right there. But again, it's not for purposes of generating revenue. It's a byproduct of good enforcement. So thank you.
Having more boots on the road.
For the legislative agenda, the two primary pieces I brought to you tonight were as a result of our discussion at the last meeting on amending the regulations on temporary storage containers, dumpsters, and portable toilets. And we have a piggyback piece where we're adding into our code section on street permits, where we've acknowledged the village administrator's right to receive an application, process an application. If there's concern about degradation of the street, to be able to enforce it through that mechanism rather than creating an exception within the ordinance itself. The reason I'm bringing this up ahead of time is this was Mr. Fisher's request, and he's gone now. I don't know if he wants to be present to address these. Secondly, if we were going to suspend the rules, particularly on ordinance 2022-9, because the other one, it's a third reading, I'm sorry, on 10, we need 5 votes to suspend the rules. So we cannot suspend the rules tonight. If you want to table this to the meeting in 2 weeks, when we have a full complement, we can do the final reading of the dumpsters, pods, and toilets, oh my, and where we would have the permit for the village administrator to grant that exception. I know that was a concern of his, and I bring it up in advance before I present these to you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think moving it would be good.
So table those 2 till the 28th.
Any objection?
Something to bring back to the table when we do on the 28th, I left open there, I mentioned in my memo, if we're going to have a permit fee, when someone wants to either close the street for an event or park a pod, we're not allowing toilets to be parked in the street. They would be the dumpsters or the pods on a limited time basis. We have the security deposit, which is flexible if we're concerned about it being there and degrading the street, but do we want a permit, so a fee? So keep that in mind as we come back in 2 weeks if we want to amend the ordinance to include any type of a nominal processing fee. It's going to take time. And we collect the money if you destroy the street through the security bond, but we're not collecting Mr. Hurst's time if people can just make the application. It's still a hardship. It's not, hey, it'd be more convenient for me to put it on the street. It's still based upon being exceptional circumstances, a hardship, such as I didn't expect this to happen to my house and I need this dumpster here, or there's no way I can put this in my driveway, or I need both the dumpster and a pod. So we expect them to make the case, not as a variance, but a case to Mr. Hurth for the exceptional need. And as you note in here, we have certain safety requirements we can impose, putting traffic cones down, making sure the reflectors on them. So we don't have a very dark pod or dark dumpster parked in the street and then Chief Meters coming down the street hits it. So.
Or Sharon's car.
Or Sharon's. He hit
The one
your
my
car?
car? No.
Oh, yeah.
Neighbor across the street.
So we'll table those 2. The third piece of legislation is the amended appropriations. And again, appropriations take effect immediately, not as an emergency,
So
but
just
they only
as
take effect immediately if we suspend a second and third reading.
as a point of order, that would be motion to table.
Yes,
Who motion to table?
Motion to table.
I think Ms. Cheney seconded.
Yep.
And then you're right, we need to call for all in favor. I think you might have, but.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Without objection, I'll take that as
Thank you for
unanimous.
that.
The main purpose of the appropriation ordinance was for a closing on Friday, but I believe we've already contracted and budgeted for that. We just need to make sure it's in the right account. We can pass it tonight, but it won't take effect until 30 days. We can table this also to the 28th and just catch up on the accounting.
As long as it's
28th.
within the same month, it should be fine.
And the monies have been received. The county has wired the funds
Okay.
and we're waiting on confirmation for the time of closing. And then we will wire the funds to the closing agent. And Mr. Putoff's been working very closely with Mr. Bean. And Mr. Bean's been very cooperative, very cooperative. I'm letting him get in there for inspections. He apparently has done a substantial amount of work on the interior of that property. The big item we're dealing with right now are tires. And he's trying to, we understand he's working with Rumpke to get the tires removed so that we can close. Last week, there was still a boat in there and a tractor. And I believe in talking to his son, who's working with his dad, that those were actually going to get out of there last weekend. So once we acquire those, we already own the bakery building, we acquire that. Our next step is we've got a proposal for asbestos inspection. The purpose of the asbestos inspection is so we can tell the demolition contractor what they need to do. We're not going to remove the asbestos. It will be how they demolish it and where they dispose of it. We suspect there's asbestos in the Bean property, in the roof shingles. I've been told There's nothing in the bakery building, but just because of its age, the contractor recommended the inspection. And as soon as we get those reports back, we can do some bid specs for demolition, which will probably occur in the spring. And we'll take those down to grade. So do you want to table then the
It makes sense to me. Is there any,
minute appropriations?
any objection? So is there a motion to do so?
As long as it's,
Motion to table.
And let's make sure we get it done within the month.
right, we just need to get it done this,
Yeah.
this month.
Make sure.
Motion table by Ms. Snyder.
Yeah, really. Oh, I have to have a special meeting. I'll second it.
So
All in favor?
point
Aye.
there before we do this. So we have to wire those funds to the closing company. Is that that's certainly on hand cash, right?
That's a good question. I mean, we
Because
have
if
it
we're
in
gonna
cash, we
do
have it in
that-
cash. but
Yeah,
that's
as
the
long as you
question.
got the money in the account, it's a matter of the accounting catching up to say, we've appropriated 150,000 whatever dollars from the general fund for the purpose of this contract.
Right.
So again, to your point, if it's caught up in this cycle, where many communities do not adjust their appropriations until the end of the year. And then they catch up on everything. The auditor has
Oh, wow.
been saying to communities, that's not very functional.
No, it's not.
So they would prefer as a matter of course that you do it at least quarterly, if not monthly.
Yeah.
So the monthly adjustment is,
Well, we're coming up on the quarterly adjustment. This is our quarterly adjustment. because
we've already done all those. Well,
I'm saying there's one more that is being done as a small one, but we're catching up on that. We won't do another one for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Because we only have 2 more council meetings.
the authorization to spend was the resolution many months ago that said you're authorized to acquire this property for $150,000.
Right.
So that authorization is in the books. It's just putting in the right account balances.
Right.
So and the only reason I bring that up is council needs to understand that we'll transfer by wire $150,000 to the closing company,
Correct.
probably tomorrow or Wednesday.
We'll need to get that
So
final
that's-
number tomorrow, so you can
Probably
go
the
over
job.
Thursday,
Okay.
no later than Thursday, to wire it to them. And usually the wiring takes place by 2 in the afternoon. So we've alerted the title company, the closing will be Friday. My understanding is they're working on it. They need information from Mr. Bean. Again, I spoke to his son, I passed that information on to his son. And those are things like the tax ID number they need. They needed a corporate resolution that says that he's the sole member and he's authorized to complete the sale, because they're gonna insure the title for us. And those are the requirements that they have in their title insurance. They're updating their title report this week for both properties. No indication of any title issues, it's just more or less updating the taxes so we can properly prorate them. To that point, when we acquire them next year, 2023, we can apply to exempt those properties as a public purpose. And so while we're holding them, we can exempt the taxes. At the same time, because it takes, unfortunately, 2-3 years to get through Columbus on it, we should apply as we demolish it for removing the value of the buildings from the property for that tax cycle.
Will we have to pay the back taxes still?
Well, we pay the taxes, and then when the exemption is granted, they will rebate those taxes back to us in our next settlement.
Interesting.
And what they do is they then take the money back from the schools, which is the principal beneficiary. They pull it back out of their settlement and put it back in our coffer.
Interesting.
So we'll declare the public purpose on it, but I don't know there's a lot of value in those buildings on the auditor's website, but we would at least file a vacant building or demolition building report. Ms. Kelly now said Mr. Rhodes. And then we can figure out how we want to categorize those properties, hold them for further development. But we will wire the funds, and we've been authorized to do that by the enabling legislation.
With all those details, is there a motion to reconsider? We did have a motion and a second and an all in
To
favor.
table, yeah.
No? Okay, so we're good.
That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Executive committee report. Mr. Marks, thank you for during that meeting. It looked very efficient of what I saw. But did a good job. They have a report to give, please.
Done on time, early. Okay, so a few things in executive tonight. We discussed rules and regulation for use of village parks. Mr. Donald provided a legislative memo for that. We went through each one of the categories in brief discussion, discussing things like, responsibility, animals, use of the park facilities. Also, there will need to be, if someone wants to have alcohol, sell alcohol online, there will need to be an application, authorization application. There'll need to be appropriate permits and things like that. All of the forms for reserving the park or the hall will all be online, similar to what you see now in some of our forms. So that will all be done. There will be a calendar connected that people can look at, correct?
Yeah,
Yes.
we'll just use.
That's all, it's all
currently
just
using.
stuff we have now. So the only thing we'll need to do is he provided a reservation form that's actually from the Village of Montgomery, so that'll have to be polished up for us. The other thing, once this moves forward to council, there'll need to be a discussion about fees. And we bantered around that a little bit. There's an existing online what fees are to reserve the park or the hall. We'll need to decide if we want to maintain that. Also, whether or not there's a separation between residents and non-residents. Maybe residents get a freebie on the park, maybe they have to pay for the hall, and non-residents would pay for anything. So that'll need to be a discussion in council. Any comments about that?
We're going to bring that legislation forward either next meeting or in December to get it approved.
Probably December, I would say. Okay, whatever. So yeah, so that was taken care of. The other thing we discussed briefly was it shows property maintenance enforcement discussion. It was basically, I wanted to get clarification on the use of citizen serve because it's an interesting little animal. It's very complete. It does its thing. But when we get it in here, Mr. Putoff receives all of the notifications. And then he has to parse out what goes to GMPD and what stays with him. So the questions were around, do residents get feedback if something's taken care of? And the answer is, if they have provided contact information, the answer is yes. The feedback that usually works is they look out their window and say, okay, that got cleaned up, or that pothole got filled or whatever. So there's nothing formal about that, but the police department has their system. As soon as something goes in there, the on-duty officer sees that there's something to be taken care of. Mr. Putoff, he uses whatever tools he needs to go out and look at the situation. If he has to have access to a neighbor's property to take photos of the problem, he does all that, and then it's all in a spreadsheet. It's all tracked, so it seems to be a very workable system for what we have. So, at some point, if somebody ever says I entered something and I didn't hear anything, you say, well, did you provide your contact information, or did you notice that it was fixed? So that does not seem to be an issue. It doesn't appear like we've had any complaints about that. The last item was a discussion regarding parking in the village. A really brief discussion about how the marked areas are working on Vera. There was a comment about they seem to be large. However, when you do this, you have to comply to state guidelines for the size of the parking spaces. And then somebody asked about, well, what if streets that are already finished, can we go back? Or, yes, that has to be a budgeted item, you have to pay for that. And then we decide on streets that are coming up, do we need to have marked spaces? And Mr. Hurst, do you want to address whether or not that would happen and which streets?
So we know that there are the north-south streets, so Mayflower, the north-south streets, Hamlet, Graceland, Elbrook, those are all parking issue streets, particularly south of Canterbury Piper. So the intent is, as we do these projects, we will go ahead and strike those since Vera was successful. As we do Englewood and Canterbury earlier or later, sometime next year, we'll go back in and take a look at whether or not we want to strike short Fair Oaks. Apparently, because I wondered this evening, well, we haven't had any complaints about short Elbrook. Well, it's because they strike short Elbrook.
Yes.
So, oops. So I think the anecdotal evidence is, and I think Chief Campbell can verify that, parking complaints have gone down because of that.
We don't receive as many.
Yep, that's good. Yeah. And the thing is, just with this people, trying to cram a vehicle in where it shouldn't, somebody's driveway gets not necessarily blocked, but they have a massively hard time trying to get their vehicle around the parked car, so.
Well, and there are some heinously large vehicles that park on Vera, especially right around Sharon's house. Just like there are some trucks and some
Yeah.
tail vans.
Big vans, those big vans.
Yeah,
Yeah, the big vans.
I think the parking spots do seem kind of large, but what's interesting is you can go down that street now, where prior to the road project, we're always dodging people. Now it's orderly when you go down Vera.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, that's,
in order.
end of the report from the executive.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Marks? All right, I see the next planning commission meeting is the 5th of December at 6:30. Is there a planning commission report? I'm presuming there isn't.
No.
Just a note on it, and I should have mentioned this during my report, we've received a request to dust off and implement our old community reinvestment area ordinance for business that wants to redevelop over on the western side of the village. And our ordinance, which is 30 years old, has a housing council, which the village administrator makes a recommendation on what the tax abatement should be. The housing council reviews it. Housing council makes a recommendation to council. If council approves it, it goes to the Hamilton County auditor then. So part of that process is for planning commission to appoint a member. And so we may have a meeting with them to appoint a member. The mayor appoints two, council appoints two. They must be residents of the village. It cannot be somebody on council because you would be the ultimate decision maker. So we will have a meeting in December, if this goes forward, to at least appoint somebody, and we'll alert you by memo to be prepared to make your appointments also in December.
So we need a council member appointment by council to the planning commission itself to replace Mr. Betcher.
I think we appointed Mr. Marks last
That
week.
has not happened.
So,
That's
was
not in the
vote,
minute. It's not in the
was
minutes.
there? I don't know if the vote happened.
My understanding, what's your recollection, guys? I thought that did happen. Did we just not remember to get it into the minutes?
It's in the bottom of the page one of the minutes.
Is it?
Okay.
Motion by Ms. Cheney to appoint
Okay.
Mr.
Yeah.
Marks to planning
Yeah,
commission.
my recollection was that.
And all approved in favor.
Okay.
Okay.
You don't
From
get
this
paid
Cheney.
anymore, but you're now on planning.
You missed it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mayor's gonna kill.
But we will,
Surprise.
Check
With
YouTube.
love.
that's the efficiency of the clerk.
Mhm.
We will convene them at least for the purpose, if this application goes forward.
So I think in the note that I sent out canceling this month's meeting is that we may need to hold a special planning commission meeting. I just got her narrative this afternoon.
I bring it up just to alert you, we
So-
still have some work to do with her.
Okay.
The
I haven't
abatement's
read it
based
yet.
upon the improvements, number of jobs, the total salaries, and then there's a flexible category of the improved use of the property. And we can give an abatement to 15 years. We're working with Hamilton County Community Development that's now has a new name. They changed the name of
Yeah.
Yeah.
like AJ or something, but they're doing a report for us to tell us, based upon what she is now projected as jobs, what the trade-off would be on the real estate revenues lost versus the income tax gain. And I'm assuming, because she only issued that today, that Daniel's not completed a report yet for us.
Well, he's on vacation until next week.
So
So
if we could prompt him, we could get all this done in December.
Mr. Donlin, is there a short paragraph that you could draft that we could pass along to a potential nominee that gives them kind of an idea of what the heck they're getting themselves into?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would appreciate that. I think council probably would as well while they're kind of shopping around to find folks.
And I can't remember the last time that the housing council met to approve an abatement. But this would be great to start using it more.
This is a company on the west side of Gulf Manor. Have they already acquired the properties?
So
That's part of the
along
process.
Weehee,
Okay.
is that?
So
No, it's the drive that goes back between Lizannaville or the section. There really
Okay.
isn't a drive
the
anymore
industrial
because it's
park.
been fenced off.
Goes back to
Oh,
the old.
back where Peterman was.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
she is
Peterman and
renting
the,
the
gas
building
place,
currently, and
Yeah.
the owner has offered it to her, and she has an opportunity to expand her business to a couple of large clients, which if she can pull this off,
Be good for
could be
us.
very beneficial to offering additional employment in the village.
Right.
So,
And
at
that's the
our tax rate,
narrative.
it's a good deal for her.
She, in an application, gives us a narrative of what she is doing to enhance this business, to grow this business, and makes the request. Mr. Hirth reviews it. He makes a recommendation to Housing Council. Housing Council reviews it. They make a recommendation to council. And along the way, we let the auditor's office know. But the devil is in the details. What number of jobs will you create? What kind of earnings tax will we get from those? And what is the trade-off if we abate real estate taxes? We are not, well, I mean, the largest percentage of the real estate taxes you pay are Cincinnati Public Schools. But we still do a calculation as to what we are giving up in exchange for that earnings tax. It may be up to 15 years. You've seen many of these through the years where Toro makes a big promise to Toledo, we're gonna bring in 200 jobs, and they give a big tax abatement, and then they fold 10 after 3 or 4 years. You can actually go back and revoke this if they do not adhere to the agreement. And she's also working, I think, with Jobs Ohio or Ready Ohio to get some credits there as well.
So is she already in Gulf Manor and she's
Yes.
expanding within Gulf Manor? And is it that private drive along the railroad tracks next to, okay.
Yeah.
What type of business is it? Are we allowed to talk about that?
I think right now we should not until we take it for public discussion.
It's not the one on this side of the railroad tracks, it's the one, there's a drive that goes back past the coffee company, right?
Mhm.
That's the one.
Okay.
we're talking about.
Thanks for the clarification.
It used to run all the way to Section,
Yes, it did,
but
Yeah.
I think they've gated it off right where Peterman used to be.
yeah, and now you have those automation companies that are back in there, MQ.
Mr. Donlon, what's your estimate of when council will receive that draft of the,
I can get that sent out to you this week
okay.
so that we're prepared to find people. And we can take folks who are volunteers in other commissions.
Okay.
We talked as an example of trying to pull some of the volunteers from the Board of Tax Review.
Okay.
And bringing them in because as you can see, it's not a lot of heavy lifting. I can't remember the last time they met.
Yeah.
And it may be one meeting and
Yeah.
they don't see each other again for 10 years. But yeah, I'll
Okay.
do a paragraph to explain what their role would be.
Great.
So
Any other-
since you're bantering about the planning commission, so for Mr. Simile's sake and the members, is there going to be a meeting or is there not going to be a meeting?
Yes, there will be a
Yes.
meeting.
So
On the 5th.
someone sent out a notice that
So the
everyone
next
knows.
meeting is scheduled for the first Monday in December,
December
December
6th.
2nd at 6:30.
It may be a very quick meeting.
Okay.
We have a nominee that we can.
This says the 5th. Yeah,
Is it
it's
the
the 5th.
Yeah.
Well, this is December, yeah,
Just
December
doing it
5th,
from
is
Monday.
the one, sorry.
Yeah.
So will someone send out a notification to the planning commission to let them know?
Why would
I'll
we
take
do
care of
that?
it.
Why would we do that? Why would we do that?
So we're coming up on
Probably the same person that usually does it.
needing
You?
to.
No. Your administrator.
So we're coming up on needing to realign calendars and schedules for next year. And a lot of the stuff that's in Outlook right now was made like 5 years ago. So some of the dates are not matching up to every other week and so forth. So I'm probably in the next couple of weeks going to go through and blow out all the appointments and then start over. So you may see some crazy stuff coming up on your calendar. Just kind of roll with it, at least initially.
Cool. Any other comments about planning commission? If not, Ms. Schneider, do you have a community engagement report?
No, we meet next week.
Okay, on November 22nd at 9:30, Tuesday, November 22nd at 9:30. Let's see, does, Ms. Cheney, do you have a report?
Yes.
Or- Okay.
Okay, so PRM LSDMC met on November the 9th. And we now have 735 students, went up 15. I don't know, my God.
It was designed for 550
550.
total people. right?
Yes,
Not
550.
students, right? Wasn't that designed, was it designed for 550 students?
Yep. It now has designed for 650. But that's because they took all the storage areas
correct.
out and offices and stuff. Okay, so the building project, the addition, was supposed to start this year. Okay, because we got a new superintendent and because the facility director left. Now we've got new hires in there and everybody's learning. So they're going to they haven't even sent the bid out. The bid's going out November 18th for the project. On December 1st, a pre-bid meeting will be held at the school at 4 p.m. December the 14th at 1 o'clock, all bids are due. So it'll be the springtime before the building is even started. And I gave the Cincinnati report card last council meeting for PRM, and of course it was low. And so the principal got the information on how close we were to getting a better score. So on achievement, we got 2 stars on that because they're doing the 5-star thing now, a 5-star being the best. We were 3.4 points away from getting 3 stars. On the gap closing, we had 3 stars and we were 3.7 points away from the 4 stars. Early literacy, we're currently at 3. We were just 1.6 away from 4 stars. So we were really, really close. But that doesn't count. No. Okay. Then the ad hoc committee with the board committee, Tammy Kaufman and I went to it. Also, Aaron Fay attended it, and Allison Goodman. They're all PRM people. And Aaron Fay is the real estate person that sells a lot of homes around here. We attended that, and the ad hoc committee, refresh your memory, is the committee that is meeting to figure out how they can help the overcrowding. What can we do? Do we draw new boundaries? You know, do we do we take away the neighborhood title for schools? Magnet schools, do we do something with those? The magnet schools in our area are very under enrolled. Just so you know, Woodford is 328. Their average enrollment is 334, and they have a capacity for 550. Silverton has 339. Their average enrollment is 337, and they have room for 400. John P. Parker, enrollment is 345. Their average enrollment is 400. They have room for 550. And that was all discussed. So once they get all that data back in, they're thinking they'll have it in December. So they'll probably have another meeting in December to discuss all the data. And well, of course, Tammy and I will go to that meeting too to hear it, because it definitely will be very interesting to see what they come up with. So after the meeting, Eve Bolton stopped me and Tammy just to talk to us. And the main reason is because PRM has been so involved with the committees and all this overcrowding and all. So she just wanted to talk to her. She said, you know, the construction's going to start soon, you know, on your building, but it's not going to fix it. And she said, we really don't really know how to fix it right now until we get all this data in. But she appreciated that we're so involved. The parents are so involved and all with following up on this. So I went ahead and I mentioned to her what LSDMC had planned to do. We put a subcommittee together, and I'm part of it, and Tammy's part of it, and Jason Chambly from Pleasant Ridge, He's also part of the development up here. And I am missing, oh, Terry Hogan. She's the new Amberley rep. So we met after we put the subcommittee together because we want to write a letter to the board. I think I mentioned that last time on what we think we should do to help our overcrowding. So we wrote our letter. It was just me, I forgot to tell you, the principal's part of that committee too. Amber Simpson, me, and Tammy Kaufman wrote the letter. And I went ahead and I mentioned to Eve what we're thinking. So I wanted her to be aware that this is going to be coming. So you understand. When a family moves into the neighborhood, Gulf Manor, Pleasant Ridge, what's the other one? Amberley. They sign up a child online. And when you go to choose your school, there's a drop-down box. The only thing that drops down for us is our neighborhood school, Pleasant Ridge Montessori. They don't offer any other schools in this area. The problem is kids are coming in, not starting in a Montessori environment. So they don't adjust to it. Some don't do well at all unless they start at the beginning. So we want the CPS board to offer Woodward, JP Parker, or Silverton as an option for these other children that are coming in so they can continue their education. So we got the letter written. We haven't approved it. We have to have LSDMC approve it next month. Once that's done, we'll mail it. But right now, that's where that stands. So another interesting thing, my sister heard on NPR that City of Cincinnati Council was holding a meeting with the Cincinnati School Board at Woodward High School last week, November the 10th. So we went. It was at 6 o'clock, from 6 to 8 p.m. Never dreamed it would be so involved and we would meet so many people that are involved in the city of Cincinnati and with the police department, the fire department. The AFTAB was there. Purell. Is that Purell? Purval, thank you. And Cheryl Long, the city manager, she's only been on the job 3 months. Miss Superintendent Wright was there, and she's only been on the job 6 months. So all of them spoke first, and then I'm going to just highlight some of the important things that I thought were pretty interesting. Not all of council was there, and not all of the school board was there, just so you know. If you want to know, I'll read them. Chief Washington from the fire department was also there, and he was the one that was on the Gulf Manor Fire Department. Chief Davis from the fire department. From the fire department was there. So let me just pick out the good stuff here. Okay, the director of education for the Cincinnati Police Department spoke, Eddie Hawkins. And he and Davis from the fire department spoke. And I thought it was very interesting that they are working together for safety in schools. And I knew that the fire department was going into the schools when the kids are 18 years old and ready to graduate and talking about, getting kids to join the fire department. I did not know that they were doing cadets. And I didn't know the police department was doing cadets. So also the Cincinnati Recreation Commission is working with the fire department and the police department. And they work and offer jobs to these kids too, so they can get on-hand job experience. They had 500 kids served last year, ages 14 to 24. And right now they're hiring for lifeguards. If you know anybody that wants to do it, they're now giving them $15 an hour. They have a lifeguard academy that's going to be held at Mount Auburn School, and train the kids for jobs. Now the police cadets, their age is 16 to 18, and they work with the police officers. They visit agencies, they do training, they do mentoring with them. They educate them, and they hope that when they graduate, that they'll join the police academy. So far, they have 10 applicants for the new police recruit class out of this group. Also, they're hiring crossing guards too. They're short 37, if you know anybody that wants to do that.
You say short 37, is that across?
They have
Cincinnati,
168.
or-
It's across all of the school system.
Right.
Yes. And the city of Cincinnati actually does the hiring for that.
Okay.
Okay, you knew that? Oh,
I know people across the guards.
yeah. So, and then CPS reimburses them. And actually, I started on the wrong page. The fire department, the fire cadets are 14 to 18 year olds. And they come from the CPS schools mostly. They do take them from other kids. They do have uniforms. They have the complete uniform. They're trained on all the apparatus and how the firefighters work and how they work with police department. They do this for 6 weeks. They learn life and job skills too. Chief Washington hopes that the cadets will become very interested and that he can put them into the fire academy and hire them. They want to hire kids that go to Cincinnati Public Schools or in this area. They have 8 cadets now that are firefighters this year so far. They do this for 1 year, by the way. They get certified, and then they have CPR, Heart Saver. I don't know what that is. The police cadets, they're police cadets for 1 year. They work events and games. Last year, there was 25 cadets. Stop bad things from happening at schools. They have become the eyes and ears of the police department at schools, around schools, in the neighborhood. The police have taught them that there is no such thing as snitching. You know, you let us know what you think's going on so we can handle it. So far, it's working. They have 85 kids right now within the school system that are making a difference. Oh yeah, Amy Weinberg. She spoke about the school safety, pedestrian safety, that they did a study, 2019, the data came in 2020, and now 2021, all reports are completed. They've done some safety improvements. They did this safety because some children were killed in crosswalks and injured. They did some safety improvements, and that was based on the fact that parents became very boisterous. PRM was one of them, and I was on that committee too, to do something about the crossing, because we had a teacher hit in a crosswalk. Covedale and Schroeder and SCPA and Walnut Hills, they all also got some improvements. Oh, I forgot. City of Cincinnati has given the CPS board $3 million to spend on safety for crosswalks and lighting and signage and stuff. So they're going to be working on how to go about doing that very well. Okay. Mark Jeffries on council, city council. He brought up driver education because across the city, everybody knows how terrible the drivers are and the speeders. And they are now working, the council is now working with the school, CPS, to bring back driver training into the schools. And the reason they want to do that is because it costs anywhere from $400 to $600 for the 16-year-olds to take driver training. And families can't afford that, so they are waiting until they are 18 years old. They're getting their license and they're out on the road and they haven't been taught anything. So they think that, well, Scotty Johnson talked about that. He was the former city police officer, now council member. He spoke about that. He believes that a lot of the problems that we're seeing now are from these kids that didn't have driver training, or people that didn't have driver training. So Scotty Johnson is leading the safety campaign with his office this year. He graduated from Woodward High School, which I thought was interesting. He said we are at a crisis across the country with drivers. Luckily, this year we've had no fatalities with our children. The city is looking at getting billboards because one of the kids in the CPS school district made a video, and it's called Lit Not to Get Hit. And that's the motto, I don't know what it is, that they're looking at putting on the billboards. And they want the kids to work with them to help get this all promoted. They're also finding that drivers don't have insurance. And also, the police department did a traffic blitz recently. And what they found with this traffic blitz with all the speeders and all is that 30% of them don't have driver's license. So it's a definite.
That feels low to me.
That feels low.
What we encounter.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's really good.
Okay. And then Eve Bolton talked about transportation issues, and that's what I was talking to Metro about. City council, and they were supposed to meet yesterday. I don't know if they met or not, city council and the board, about the transportation issues that they're having and what they can do. Their partnership with Metro, which he explained that it's a federal issue now. They can't do it. I don't know what they're going to do. Told you that. Aren't you glad I'm about done? Okay, and they talked about homelessness in schools, and I thought this was interesting too. They define this homelessness for a kid in school as any child who does not live with one parent and does not have a steady home to live in or to sleep in at night. They can live with a grandparent that has a fixed residence. Okay, before the pandemic in the state of Ohio, there were 23,800 students that were homeless. Last year, CPS had 3,500. So far this year, we have 1,900. And then Rebecca Beach, she's Project Connect. She was hired by the city of Cincinnati to take over No Child Left Behind, and she is now working with the programs and helping these homeless students. And that's it. I made it to the end. Aren't you glad? And I did check for you. You asked me a question about the school report cards last time. The school report cards, the younger kids get tested once a year, and it's always at the beginning of the school year.
Okay.
So the information we get is a year old by the time we get the report card. And the report card comes out right before the school starts the following year. The older kids in elementary, 5th and 6th graders are tested twice a year.
Okay.
So that answers that question.
And that is then transformed into the 5-star score. All right.
Mhm.
So, okay.
Right.
I know at one point we had talked about the possibility of, to the point of trying to serve our residents information-wise, making sure they're getting all the pertinent information about school choices and about what's going on with our community school. Whether the principal had a way of, having their address list, whereas if us as a municipality wanted to share some information that we could tag on to that to make sure that our residents are getting certain information. I know it's been a long time since we've had that conversation, but I was curious about specifically if they can't if they can't fix the drop-down menu anytime soon. I know that that's going to be complicated because it also has to do with funding, right? In terms of where money goes to these different schools and everything. And I think that commonly now that's handled through the voucher system if you're going to go to an outside school. So I know it's a big bundle of complication to be doing that. But to get information out to parents just about the existing options that are currently on the table that I think a lot of people don't know. I know that when it took me a while to understand what all the options were with regard to school options. I know the school choice day, I'm thinking that's or the proclamation that I get asked to make every year concerning school choices at the beginning of the year, which is the whole focus of that is to bring attention to parents, what kind of options they have with regard to sending their kids to different school. In Ohio, via the voucher system, if the scores aren't at a certain level, which PRM, it's relevant for our residents there, if they're not at a certain level, and they have another school, even a private school to go to, state will help them pay for the private school fees for them to go to another option. So I know folks that take advantage of that, but I'm very well aware that a lot of people don't even know that option exists. So in any way that you and I could work together on making sure our residents know about that, I think it would serve part of the piece about PRN being overcrowded the way that it is.
Do we have any idea how many students, Gulf Manor students attend
Um,
PRN?
okay, so Amber Simpson, the principal, we talked about that. She said there's a lot more than what we had. I know,
Do we have a
so
number?
there,
They have a
no,
number.
we don't have a number yet. That
God.
they would have to get it, right? And I think they're gonna work on getting that.
I mean,
So we know
the
how many.
students are registered, they have addresses, they have to have.
Right.
Yeah, they do.
It's
Yeah.
a matter of
Um,
looking at a spreadsheet,
just-
finding the spreadsheet,
yeah.
and looking
And
at it.
sorting it.
It's sorting it, right, by the
Yeah,
streets,
just
right?
CPS, so we know what.
Yeah. So they wanna know how many are in Amberley, how many are in Pleasant Ridge, and how many are in Gulf Manor.
Okay.
They
How
may
many
be
are
able to
we
give you census data, but they may not be able to give you specific child and address. because
No,
of
they
privacy.
Yeah, but they
Yeah,
can,
we just
Exactly,
wanna
they
know
can
what's
give me
the
the
number.
total.
Right.
they can
That's
say
it.
we have 300.
So they can
Six
tell you
students.
census data.
Right.
Yeah, they can give me the
That's
total, that's it.
Okay.
That's what I got once before, like 3 or 4 years ago, it was
Yeah.
180.
Yeah. that's
Oh.
what I understand. Okay.
Miss Cheney, thank you for your thorough report. As always, it's such a great service. Thank
If
you
you
for your
wanna
detail.
watch the CPS and the
Do they have it?
city council, it's on YouTube.
Okay.
Just search on CPS, state of school. No, it's the CPS, wait a minute. CPS Board of Education, City Council Joint Meeting. It was held at Woodward. Oh, afterwards, Steve Bolton and I talked too after that meeting. And come to find out that Woodward High School is super nice. It's 15 years old and it looks brand new. And they have a museum. So she took me to the museum and it is unbelievable. Because a lot of this stuff has come from the old Woodward School that was downtown across from the diner, which is going to be apartments. And that's where my dad went. So that was important to that stuff.
I went there.
Okay, I'll shut up.
I'm aware that the
Back in
Cincinnati
1930.
Recreation Commission works closely
dad.
with Woodward
Yeah.
for a lot of activities, like particularly through the summer. Sport events and everything are almost always hosted at Woodward that Cincinnati Recreation's putting on. So they'll have things like basketball clinics for kids that are free. They'll have things that are tennis clinics, all these kind of things. So yeah, they're good partners. Glad to hear about those job opportunities potentially for Golf Manor teams, right? So I'll look into that because I'm interested in what Cincinnati Recreation Commission could potentially partner with Golf Manor. That would be great. So
I think I wrote her name down. I can give it to you.
that would be awesome. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, any questions for Ms. Cheney? Any other items concerning community engagement? And if not, where are we here? Finance Committee, I see that their next meeting is at our next council meeting, is that correct? And let's see, announcements, so at 6 PM on the 28th. We have full council meeting at 7 PM, immediately at the conclusion of that Finance Committee meeting. And then I think we mentioned the Planning Commission meeting, that will be the 5th of December, is that correct? Any other announcements?
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, thank
to
you as
everyone.
well.
And if not, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody, for your service.